Oh yeah, we're doing a sketchbook tour. Alright, so I bought this sketchbook less than a year ago, over the summer. I chose this brand, Cresent Rendr. I've had a couple of their sketchbooks before, and they're, I think, some of the best sketchbooks you could get because all the pages, they don't bleed through, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, because a lot of my work is very like heavily inked, or some even have color, and with my previous sketchbooks they would just bleed through to the next paper, so that allows me to fill out every inch of space in the sketchbook that I want to. So anyway, let's get into this. See here I have my Instagram handle, and I just used a white jelly roll pen here and just wrote my name, and I was like, I gotta add a couple more things here just to make it look cool. And then first page, it was mostly just a test because I hadn't had a Crescent sketchbook in quite a while, and I was like, I wonder if it is bleed through still, because I remember my last one. I don't know if the page quality had changed or not, so I just went crazy with some Sharpie markers, and I was like, okay, let's just color a couple parts, but I was a bit too lazy and I didn't feel like coloring anything else in this, so yeah. And as you could see, it did not bleed through to the next side because I ended up doing this Dreamland No. 3 on there. I have like a little Dreamland series where I just kind of draw these crazy land dreamscape type things. One thing I like about this though is that like there's a lot of things that are just like connected like all throughout the piece. So like as you can see, there's a squid here, and then this tentacle's getting eaten by this like Mario plant that's getting eaten by this other Mario plant that's getting put into this tube here. That's this like giant drum or whatever you would call it. And then you have like all this smoke coming out where this UFO is, and then this other pipe goes in here, and then there's another pipe here that's sucking out all of these little torch guys with the happy and sad faces. It's all getting drawn into this one tube here. I think my favorite part about this though is this box here. I really liked how I shaded that. And for this I used Micron pens for like about half of it, and then the other half I used a Lamy Safari. It's a fountain pen. I ended up losing the cap to that a couple months ago, so I don't really use that anymore, but it was nice while I had it, because I also used it for this piece, which was originally going to be like a queen or something, but I'm not really good at drawing like women, so it just turned out to be this dude here, and then I was like, let's just make him a king, some like, divine ruler type thing here, and imperial desires. And then I wanted to put some red in there, so that's what I did. This was actually Posca marker, while the rest was in was with that Lamy Safari fountain pen. So yeah, go over here. This page I never really showed anywhere, mainly because I just don't think it's like the quality is as good as like what I would want to post on some social media platform. But basically this just started in class one day. I was just bored and I wanted to do some stuff with some clouds and like a astronaut behind the clouds, and so that's what I did. And then later on I added the sun here, but I felt like that was just like too plain for a sun, so I just wanted like these doodles to be like hitting them and almost like spreading out. Have you ever like walked outside like you're really cold or something, and like the sun hits you and like you literally feel like chills of warmth? That's kind of what I imagined when I did this. And then I didn't really use a ruler for any of this. I just made sure to keep the lines really straight and close together, because I needed to fill in the background, and I didn't want to like do anything crazy in the background. So yeah. And then with this piece, Study of the Brain, this one was started when I was waiting at the dentist. I started doing the box around it, I believe. Or no, sorry, I penciled this first, and I was doing this at the dentist here. I didn't really know. I think originally it was just going to be this, and I had none of this other stuff planned here. But there's an artist that I'm pretty influenced by, Peter Draws, and he does a lot of these like labeling type things. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool if I like labeled like up close certain parts of it. And then, you know, I had notes here and some like mushrooms, and he got like a brain. So it's like almost like you could take notes on it, and it's like monitoring everything else about this brain thing that I just, you know, made up. You know, like I think right there it says yellow filter, and then there's like a red filter. Yep, red filter, and then a bunch of other stuff here. So yeah. Then this page here, it's probably my favorite. Wasn't really, there was no plan going into this at all. It's called The Jungle Book. That I had no idea that it was going to be titled that at the end at all, because I just started out with a couple leaves. I just wanted to do something nature inspired. There wasn't any like plan, but I was like, I can't just keep on going with these leaves right here and spread it all the, like it would look cool, but like I feel like I could do something better. So what I ended up doing was, next thing is I drew this snake here with the leaves dispersing out of it. And I was like, okay, well now I got to work with a snake and a couple leaves, and it's like put like an eyeball there. And as I started like drawing this, I was like, that's still a bit too boring. Like, okay, I could have these hidden elements, but like I feel like I need something to break it up. So after I added this woman here with like the snake coiled around her neck, and then I kind of just made this blob here, I decided that I wanted it to have like some kind of like depth, so like almost like this front part like pops out at you. So that's what I ended up doing. I did this black box here and then another box here. I just penciled it out, and then I put the Jungle Book, because at the time at my local art museum they were doing like a book sale of just like old art books that they had, and one of them was this like really nice copy of the Jungle Book. It was like probably like from the 50s, and it's these like really nice like pen and ink like art on every other page. It was really nice. So I was like, okay, let's do something with the Jungle Book, because I really liked how that looked. And you know, I'm doing this fine line work, and I thought that'd be kind of fitting. So put the Jungle Book here, another box, and after that I was like, okay, then I could go back to this style and just replicate it here. But I made sure, like, okay, I should probably put some more thought into it, because I just don't want just normal this stuff. So I made sure to have two snakes coiling on either side to give something for like the viewer to look at as it like kind of weaves in and out of certain like leaves and flowers. And then I wanted like a big flower in every corner to kind of like, you know, break it up into segments here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I put some like animal eyes down here, because you know that was going to be too boring if these didn't have anything. And then I was trying to put some human eyes here, but I feel like the human eyes were a bit too close. I still think it works though. And then for this piece here, this is actually a Michelangelo statue, and the reason I did this was because in my old sketchbook, I actually got this sketchbook where I'm doing the tour on now because I lost this sketchbook that actually happened to be under my bed. But in this sketchbook here, there's one page, yeah, right here, where I did this Leonardo da Vinci drawing here. And you know, it came out like how I anticipated, with like the words and everything. Like it looked like up to par with what I did at the time, but I was still like, after like a week or two, I was like not really happy with how he did the shading here, and how he had like these dead fish eyes, and like kind of like the lazy line work on the hair. Like there's a lot of flaws in this that I was not really a fan of, like especially like right by the eyeballs. Like I know I could have shaded this better. Like this is lazy here, lazy line work, like right up there. Like you could just see me, I'm like not really even paying attention. I just want to cover that area. And so I made sure that with this piece here that I changed that, and I made sure that the line work was actually better quality than what I previously did. So as you can see here, I made sure that there's a good gradient and that the line work was all facing one way, consistent. And I made sure that I spent more time on the hair to make it actually look more like hair, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. And then after I got this part down, I didn't really want to do the rest of the statue, so I just kind of made it wavy here. And then we got these two beams coming out here, but I thought it'd be cool if the lines would go through. So yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces probably, or one of my favorite like spreads with the 2 pages. We go to the next page here. We have another Sharpie Doodle. This one took me about like 30 minutes tops. It was more of just like a warm-up thing. And it was one of the first, it was a piece that inspired one of my recent pieces. So for a TikTok video, I did a piece on attempting to draw insanity. And I talked a lot about like this chaotic thing I was trying to achieve here. And that was the first time, I did how to draw chaos. But I really, like, later I was thinking about it and I was like, I really didn't draw chaos. And like pretty much my entire thought process was shown with that one video where I'm trying to draw insanity. And I'm talking about how like these lines are really just order. Everything is order. But then it could be like, if you look at it closer, it comes back to chaos and how the ink spreads, and then it's like back to order with like how the ink molecules all like are connected and stuff. And yeah, it was an interesting thought though. Like, even though this is probably like the worst page in the entire sketchbook, it still got me thinking about other things. So yeah, this page here was actually done for my senior project in high school. I had to mentor like someone in the career that you want to go in. So I chose tattoo artist. I don't really want to be a tattoo artist, but it was the closest thing that like the tattoo artist, she also did like murals and her own work. So I was like, okay, I'll have you be my mentor. And pretty much I just sat around at like this tattoo studio where like they had apprentices and stuff, and I just like drew and chatted with all of them. And one of the apprentices, she had a sketchbook where she had this page cut out here. There was no frame or anything, but like I just really liked the idea how like she just cut this out, and then like the drawing like kept on going into the next page. So I kind of used that idea where I had this like fancy frame in a museum with everyone looking at it. She's on her phone taking a picture. And then you go to the next page, and it's just a completely different world. He's like, what a weird looking creature. And it's like just this weird looking beetle. And like a magnifying glass that's like up close of the beetle's really detailed shell. But yeah. And we go to this page here. This page was inspired just by like some daydreaming in class. Like I was thinking about like how like I want to live in an apartment, but like I'd love to have it where like the view outside my window would change every day. And I was like, well, how would I get that to happen? Like, what would be the coolest way? Like, what if I just lived up there and every day like all these apartment building like complexes were like also people that walked around the city like slowly. And so that's where that idea came from. And when I first started it, I had like this confidence, so I just went right for this face here. And it like really motivated me to complete the rest of the drawing in that fashion. This is one of the pieces I'm most proud of, like with the freehanding, or the freehand work, with no like pencil lines before or anything. As you can see though, is that there's some parts that are darker than others. Like it almost looks like the rest of this building's faded, while this is like really dark black. And that's because that the really dark ink was the fountain pen, and then the rest was used with a Faber Castel pen here, because that was around the time where I lost the cap to my fountain pen. So yeah, I also really like these gun buildings right here. I think it's kind of cool that they have an entire city that could move and like defend itself, like all just from like the top of the buildings and everything. Also, this is one of my favorite guys here too. I don't think a lot of people notice him, but like his eyes up here, his nose there, those like almost look like his eye, but his actual eye is down here. Then he has like a suit and tie type thing going on here. Thought that was pretty interesting. And then for this one here, this is a lot of people's favorite. I first posted just this guy in the corner here, and it was just, I never drew in anything else, so it was just him in a white void. And then after that I drew in all this. And this is also another piece that I'm really proud of in terms of my line work and how I just freehanded it. And I think why I'm like pretty good at that freehanding, especially with like these demons and all that stuff, is because back in middle school I was really into like comic book art. I wanted to be a comic book artist, like you know, Jack Kirby or Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee. And I studied anatomy a lot and did a lot of drawings of superheroes. So I think that paid off because now I'm able to just draw these like really muscular dudes. And so I just applied that to these demons. And, you know, different angles, different demons. We got like a demon here that's also like a burning candle and all types of stuff. This next page here, this is Dreamland Number 4. I never really put the title anywhere, but that's what I titled it. This is around the time where I was getting into Studio Ghibli. This was around the beginning of 2020, like end of 2019. And so I drew this, and you know, I just wanted to create a scene that, you know, was just fun to look at. Like, I love how, like, Ghibli with their visual storytelling, and I really want to get better at that. Like, I want to do a lot more of those with my future art pieces. So, you know, I had this plane here, and I created these sea monsters that were bursting out of the clouds, like chasing them. Got the moon up there. One thing I don't really like is how I shaded the clouds. I feel like I could have spent more time shading the clouds and, you know, getting them to look more fluffy and real, and I feel like I could have spent more time on the buildings. But I think if I did the clouds right, the buildings would look better, and maybe vice versa. For this page, I actually started out using a Bic pen, a blue Bic pen, and I didn't really like what I was doing. I'd like probably had like half of it done. I really didn't like it at all, so I just took a blue paintbrush, blue acrylic paint, and just brushed over it. And I just used a white Jelly Roll pen and just started drawing on it. I think the first things I drew were these flowers, which is actually part of a painting I was in the beginning stages of at that time. And I had these flowers in that painting, so I thought, okay, I could test out and use these flowers in different drawings. So that's what I did with these eyeball flowers and these flowers with like the pollen or whatever, like almost floating up. And then, you know, I had line work here, but I didn't want the boring line work where it just continued and this space was empty, so I put this little globe here and this globe here. And that kind of reminded me of this Mac Miller song that came out at the time, Blue World. I think it's one of the best songs off the album. So I just used that, and then the year I was born, and then I just kind of filled out the rest here, and yeah. Let's go to this page. This is around the time I started live streaming on Reddit. And what I did was just I cut out some pages from some comic books I had. I forget what comic books, they were just some random ones like from the 90s, I believe. And so I placed them over here and then just drew around that. It's interesting, but I don't think I did anything like crazy with it. Like, the piece could still work alone without this stuff, and so like, I mean, it's not really like adding anything in my opinion, but you know, it's just something else to look at, especially with color, since not a lot of my pieces are in color. One of my favorite parts of this though is if you look really closely right here, there's like a couch and a coffee table and all these people here in their shadow, but they're like way like out in the distance from where you're looking from. And also like these characters here and this like yin yang like type pattern, and like these birds with the sun and clouds. I was inspired by like some Celtic art here, so that's what I tried to do a little bit while also just being all crazy with the chaos. But one thing I didn't like about this too is like the usage of like this doodle pattern. I feel like I need to stop doing that kind of stuff and make it like actual things that make sense, like this building for instance. I don't really like how I cut off the building there where it goes shoo. I think it would make sense if like you could see the full building, but like now it's going behind this and that just kind of looks odd now. Or you know, this car here, but this car is like half cat too, I don't even know. But yeah, with this page, another Sharpie Doodle. Every once in a while I gotta like take a little break and just go at it with the Sharpie. But I got a little bit of the glue when I was gluing these on. I got it on this page, so some of the color here is weird looking from me just coloring over like dried glue. And I would slowly color this on live stream. whether that be like the TikTok live stream or Reddit. It just gave me something to like warm up on before I worked on another piece. So yeah, this page here, this one I haven't really decided on a full name yet. Right now it's like called Time Jump or something, but it just started out with, if you guys know the artist Kim Jung-gi, he's probably one of the best pen and ink artists out there, like how he could just draw from memory. And every once in a while I'll watch one of his videos, and that inspired me. I was like, oh, I bet you I could do that. So I just started working on this guy with like a bunch of details on his little like suit or like armor, whatever, and like, you know, this helmet here with smoke coming out. And, you know, I was never confident with hands, but, you know, this time I was just like, screw it, let's just go for it. And I really liked how the hands turned out. And, you know, he has a weird looking vehicle where there's like wheels spinning in every direction here. And, you know, I tried to do that with this guy, but I think this guy got a little bit too nervous. Like, I didn't have the confidence I had with this guy. I feel like he does not look as good as him, but I think he has a cooler vehicle, though. I think it was just because I was focused on the legs, like, to make them kind of work. I still don't think they work very well with the rest of the body, though. And then from there, you know, I drew in this city here, and I wanted to make it really detailed, like Kim Jung-gi. You know, he doesn't, like, just, like, take out detail. Like, if it's the background, it's still going to be really detailed. So that's what I tried to do. But I didn't want to do an entire cityscape all the way down, or like the same cityscape. So that's why I broke it up into different perspectives here. And like all these platforms are almost like what their bikes jump on. So it's like, vroom, and then they could jump to this one and see, and then they just go down this like 1-point perspective city here. Or, you know, they could jump onto this one, and, you know, right there it says next level. And they could actually jump down to this little strip here. And I think there's a couple more I'm not seeing. Oh, there's another one. But, you know, there's all these different cities. Like, you know, that could be New York right here. I don't know if you could see, but there's like a road that goes in between all the buildings here. But then it slowly morphs into this. It's kind of like that Doctor Strange movie where like the city starts like folding in on itself. And then, you know, you got that. Goes into this city. You know, like these two pillars here are in different cities, which I thought was pretty cool. And then you got like another one down here. These two are like different cities as well. It's pretty interesting. This one here is a self-portrait. Pretty much I just penciled out this guy, and with my recurring theme of clocks, I just put the clock over my head. This is the length of my hair at the time. My hair is a lot longer now, but anyways, I use this clock in this drawing mostly just to represent kind of like that flow state I get into when I'm drawing. I don't know about you guys, but like if you have like a hobby or something where you just kind of lose sense of time, and like it could feel like either 20 minutes or like 20 minutes will feel like 2 hours. And, you know, and while you're doing that, like, just all this stuff is happening here. And, you know, it's one of my favorite parts of drawing, is where it just, you don't really, you're just kind of thinking, but, like, you're not, like, super conscious about it, because you're just, like, you're just enjoying this. And I think it's almost like some kind of, like, meditation. It's nice. But anyway, I did quite a bit of this on the live stream as well. Got this person trapped here, this, and actually this guy I drew in a school worksheet, and then I carried him on to this drawing. Sometimes that's how some of the characters happen. It's just I've drawn them in school so much that it's like, oh, I guess I could add them into my sketchbook. So yeah, this one here, this drawing is called In Between Heaven and Hell. It started out with this guy. I had no plan, or no, somewhere around here, like that was the first part of the drawing, and I had no plan with this. And so slowly things just kind of took shape, and like I started to slowly build this world here. And yeah, this was originally meant to be like quicksand. I still kind of see it like that, but these ripples make it look like some kind of like it's water, which is fine. Also like this cliff a lot here, but yeah, I brought back some of these characters I've drawn before, sorry. These like brain fish here. You got this guy, And I wanted to use masks a bit more, so this is a mask that I've been using quite a bit in a couple of my drawings. This like dualism yin-yang mask. But yeah. And then with this one here, this one's just called 100 Ways to See and Unsee. It says these are just a few of them. And I have this like idea sketchbook where pretty much I just write down and scribble ideas and maybe sketch them out a little bit. And for this one, I just put 100 Ways to See and Unsee, and then I drew this guy, and where is he? And this guy. And then off of that, I was like, when I actually did the actual drawing, I had to come up with the rest of it on the spot. So, you know, now we have this guy here. This guy's one of my favorites, with the windows. We got this guy here with all the cubes and 3D shapes. And, you know, this guy with his mouth is filled with eyeballs here. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I had a lot of fun with this drawing and coming up with the different people that I could use for this. And then here's where we're starting to get to the end of my sketchbook so far, because I've only filled out around 20 or so pages, so I still got the rest of this to go. But we got this one that I'm working on right now. This one had no plan going into it either, so I've kind of just worked my way around it. So this is what it's looking like so far. I'm really enjoying drawing it though. It's pretty fun. Then we got this world here. This one I actually started when I went camping. I went up to the cabin. We have this cabin way up north, and you know, I love looking like really close at the ground. So, you know, a lot of this stuff here was just like this little like moss forest that I was seeing, and like these little ferns here that are everywhere. And, you know, there's a lot of fungus growing on the little tree stumps. And I put little houses in here and then made them into these like bigger islands where, you know, the water falls into this one. You know, there's like little buckets here, and you know, a lot of people like live here. It's kind of like how Bob Ross would draw like houses but never really show the people that lived in the houses. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I didn't want to continue this going all the way up, so I decided to break it up and put these giant mushrooms here, kind of like that Mario Kart world where you like your car's like bouncing on the mushrooms. It's kind of what I imagined when I was drawing these, but you know, I'm not done with it yet. This page, just, I don't know, I was penciling out some planes. For graduation, we had to do this parade thing, and it was like an hour long. And I didn't really want to be part of it or anything, but I brought my sketchbook along, and I was just sketching out these planes here. Because I want to draw planes more, so why not practice them? I'm probably going to fill up this page with planes, who knows? And then we got this piece here, also inspired by, I think it was an artist similar to Kim Jong-gi. I forget his name though, but I just loved how like fast he worked, and I just had a random idea in my head at the time, so I just started really quickly working on this, and I was like, okay, let's see how fast I could get this done, you know, because I've been working on this piece for, it's been like a couple months, like on and off, like, you know, I work on it for like 10 or 20 minutes here and there. And so this piece, I was just determined to get this done, and I didn't want to have like pieces that are just sitting around that are slowly getting worked on. So that's why this piece was completed pretty quickly. If you ever watch the movie Mirai of the Future, there's a scene where like this kid is like running what actually happens to be the bottom of a fish tank, but all these like little minnows and guppies are like following him along. I thought that was pretty cool, so I kind of used that as inspiration for like the kid with like the fish floating like above him. And then, well, I also live by a lake, so you know, I have lots of memories of me like playing in the lake, you know, so I just use these lily pads. I've seen them from this angle before, you know, I've swam down there and looked around. And then, you know, this is the actual pond here, and the rest of this is actually just a projection of his imagination. You know, we got the lily pads that haven't quite made it to the surface yet. We got a couple minnows here, a little turtle. Really fun. Oh, look at that. Looks like I didn't complete a piece here. I guess I forgot to do the grass. Sometimes that stuff just gets lost, and there's like just too many lines where I forget some parts. So I guess I'll fix that after I'm done with this tour here. But oh, yeah, this is the last page. Well, it isn't the last page that I've drawn in, because I have a community page in this sketchbook where anyone who sees a sketchbook, they're able to draw on one page here. I don't really care what they draw, so you know, there's just some random stuff. Some people like will sign their names or whatever. But yeah, everyone that's seen the sketchbook has gotten a chance to draw whatever. It's pretty cool. So if you ever get to see the sketchbook in person, just ask me about the community page and I'll let you draw on this. So yeah. Well, I'm done with that. I said like way too many times. What? Who are you? What?
Sponsored by Synthetic.
What do you mean sponsored by Synthetic?